So back then you were a photographer, or were you painting as well?
I was doing both. I started as a painter, but I'd gotten into photography through a wonderful guy I met who was with an agency in New York and got me turned on. And I then got into photography and did a lot of portraits and documentary things. And finally, Phillips Academy in Andover asked me to come up as a year to be a photographer in residence there and teach, which I loved. And while I was there, I heard about this guy, Minor White. And I heard how great a teacher he was and a great photographer. So I called him and I said, can you come up and teach a workshop with me? He said, sure. He showed up in his great big old four-wheel drive. And big
This was what year?
This is about 1967. And he came up and we had a wonderful day teaching together, but he went down to the car, and as we were getting into the car, lugging his big 8x10 camera, he looked at me, he says, George, how the hell did you end up teaching photography? You don't know that much about it. I said, it's probably true, Minor. He says, but you know what? You do everything well that I don't do. You're a great teacher, you love the kids, and you know enough about art to approach it from that way, so come and be a professor with me at MIT. Just be a professor.
Yep.
And I said, well, okay. So I went the next fall to MIT and had a wonderful 4 years teaching with him there in the architecture department. And I learned a lot there. What,
Did you, at that time, were you living in Nova Scotia?
No.
When we saw this movie?
Oh, well, when the movie was made,
yeah.
and when I was, yes, we lived up there only, actually we were there year round, yeah.
At that time you
were?
Yeah,
we were. Yeah.
Did you have the kids there with you too?
Oh yeah, they were born there.
Oh, they were born there?
Yeah.
Your kids were, so they're half Canadians?
Luckily they have an exit card if they need it from silly warfare, if it happens to be silly.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And they get all their health insurance taken care of up there too?
Not really. You have to make some options. Are you this or are you that?
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay, because they got to...
But it's a great system, I think, the Canadian system of health. I mean, they do really take... The only problem is there aren't enough doctors, and it takes a long time to get it.
But you think that the system is... It works, okay?
I think it's pretty good.
But it could be fixed. It could be better.
Yeah.
Well, I think that holds true for most places,
They need more doctors like we do.
Yeah, they need more doctors.
Yeah.
Especially in the rural areas.
Right. We are really in a rural area. We are in a harbor.
It looks it. I mean, when after you see the movie, you're just amazed. Has it changed that much? The look of it?
A bit, but not much.
Not that much.
I went up in the lighthouse nearby 10 years ago, and I looked up the shore, took a look at it, and it really hadn't changed much. There were about 5 or 6 houses that were new since I went up there years ago, and it's changed, but it still has the feeling there aren't many people, and there's an awful lot of tourists. But
what about the kind of style of the character that we saw in the movie?
Well,
Do those people still exist?
Those guys have all died. One or two of the kids.
But do they act the same way? Are they the same kind of? Are they farmed?
I think they would. I think I know people like them that they're 30 years younger, and they still love the land. I think they become more realistic in terms of somehow making it work financially and so forth. But yeah, I mean there are still farms that operate. Not many of them. A few sheep around, but. It isn't the days that we, the hippies, went up and really enjoyed it and latched into it.
Back then, that was the kind of place. What drew you to it? What drew you to that area? Because it was a hippie hangout? Or?
No, my parents had gone there on their honeymoon in 1930. And they said, wow, it's great and the fishing's great. So I showed up there and, God, the hospitality of the Nova Scotians, of rural people generally, is tremendous. And this guy looked at me, and he said, when I appeared, and he said, George? I said, yes. He said, where are you going to stay tonight? I said, oh, I don't know. Camp out somewhere. You camp out, you see that place? You camp out over there, right by the stream. You're going to get some trout, and I'll see you. So for 3 days, this guy was wonderful, and he let me stay there, and I got sold on that place. And during that time, I went down into this harbor, and I found a kind of a rooming house or a place I could stay. And I went in there and they were really great. They let us have a great place, and it was very inexpensive. But by the time I left, I was talking to him about maybe buying it from him. I loved it so much, that area. And my wife is a gardener and very much organic and involved very, very much in nature. So anyway, I did stay there for a while, and did talk to this guy, and he's a Scotchman, so you had to watch him in bartering. He's a wonderful guy, but tight. So anyway, by the end of the year or so, with a lot of correspondence, we decided on a price, and I bought it. And it's neat. It's a working farm. We worked
the same one you've got.
Same one. For 7 years we lived there. We had cattle and sheep and stuff like that. But I did keep doing photographs.
So do you consider yourself to still be a hippie?
No, I really don't. I mean, some of my values are, but I have to tell you, I had that beard, and after having it for about 5 or 6 years, I looked at myself one day in the mirror, and I said, George, Abraham Lincoln, no, you're not that. So I went downstairs, stood in a doorway, behind one edge of the doorway, and she saw my whole face. But I had shaved off this whole side, right from here over, and I stood in such a way that she could see my old face, and she just talked to me. Then I went over to the other side of the door, and all she saw was skin. And she said, "Oh, that's horrible. What am I going to do?" Something. But she got used to it.
She wanted the beard back.
No, I think thinking about it, she really didn't. But that was the need that she knew. Ever since I'd been dating her or going with her.
You never grew it back since?
Not intentionally. I've had some shadows,
sure.
but I get
nothing like that.
Nothing like that. No. I have about as much hair on top as you do.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
You still look great, George.
Well,
and we're pleased that you're still around and on Nantucket.
Well,
thanks for sharing that.
This is a great place to be.